Hello, good morning. Good morning, good morning. It's Thursday morning here inside of High Performer Lifestyle. Welcome to those of you who are watching live and to those of you who are watching the replay on Facebook and or YouTube. Please, when you get on, just say hi so I can see you. Hi, Catherine. Good morning. We are on day 4, part 4 of talking about what you all in this group voted number 1 on wanting to have support on, and that is how to stay focused on your goal until you achieve it. Right? So not about how to get excited about your goal, how to, start your goal and how to change and do another goal, right? But how do you go narrow and deep on one goal and go all the way no matter what is going on around you? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. So if you can relate to having a big goal and when you set it, just being being so committed to it, right, in your mind, being so committed to it, seeing it, being really excited about it, even sharing it. But then somewhere along the way, you start to lose momentum. You start to lose commitment, right? You have a feeling or a story of, I'm no longer motivated by it, inspired by it. It's just not for me anymore. Well, oftentimes that happens when it gets mundane, right? When it gets a little difficult, or when you're not getting the result in your mind quick enough. When you're not getting the result quick enough. And the danger in operating like that, in operating in a way that you just give up on it or talk yourself out of it really being meant to be, simply because you're in the mundane details of it or it's not happening quick enough. The danger of that is truly that you number one, you never ever get your full potential, right? Because you haven't gone all the way. But you're also, and you guys know all I talk about, my through line, the foundation of everything I talk about is how you're training your mind, right? What's the auto message that you're putting into your brain? And so the danger with that is that you start to train yourself to be okay with not going all the way. You start to train yourself to give up on things. And that might be okay for certain goals and small goals, but it's not okay for the things that really mean something to you in your life, right? Your career, your art, your relationships, all of that. The way that you train yourself to do one thing, if you're quitting in one area of life and only giving 75%, that's typically what you're doing in other areas. Okay, so that's why this topic is so important and why I'm excited that this is what you guys voted on, because this is one area that I actually excel in and support my clients with. Okay, so let's do a really quick review. Number 1, and you can go back and watch the videos from this week. Click the videos tab on the side, or if you're on YouTube, you'll see them right underneath of here. So number 1, make it your personal responsibility to achieve the goal. Don't put it on anyone else, including the people that you pay to support you with it, right? So I have coaches in all areas of my life, people that I consult with, but I don't put the responsibility on them to get the result that I'm committed to creating. Okay, number 2, declare it, publicly declare it, put it out energetically into the universe and share it with others so that you can really be energetically, you're holding yourself accountable by saying that this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm pursuing. You don't have to declare a by when timeline, but when you declare that this is something that you're going to do, first to yourself and then to others, you then put yourself on the line to keep your word. And listen, I've said this before, especially if you are someone who coaches others, is responsible for others, you have a company or you're a leader in some way, your word means everything. Your word means everything. So Be responsible for it, declare it, know why, know the bigger purpose of your goal. It can't just be, because it seems cool or because it's somebody else's goal, or, because I just want to make more money. There's got to be a bigger purpose underneath your goal, because when you get connected to something more meaningful than just money or than just the way you look physically, like if fitness is a goal for you or weight loss, when you get connected to something deeper than that and bigger than that, that's what's going to keep you going when it does get mundane, right? There are mundane, days and habits and things that go into getting you all the way to a goal that you want. That's just part of it. That's where commitment comes in. That's where you train yourself, you train your mind to actually love that part of the process, right? And not get hung up in it because you're pulled forward by the bigger vision. So having a deeper why is what's going to keep you going. And then yesterday we talked about taking the vision, right? Let the vision be nice and big and out there, and then setting a goal, and then breaking that goal down into smaller, more manageable goals so that you are setting yourself up to win and achieve your goals on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis, right? You want to train your mind to start realizing that, oh yeah, I do actually keep my word, right? If your goal is too big and lofty and that's just the only goal, and you haven't really microed it down into smaller things like benchmarks, then you kind of get lost in it, especially if you're somebody who tends to just be really excitable and just go off of passion in the moment. And you get kind of sidetracked easily. It's super important for you, especially, let me know if this is you, if you relate to this. It's super important for you to have smaller, manageable goals, like I said, on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis. You want to start training your mind, I did it. I achieved my goal. Because so often people will come to me and say, I just, it's hard for me to stay focused. Well, yes, if you're setting things so big that you can't manage them. Train your mind to believe that you can be focused. Just reel it in. Does that make sense? Does this connect with you guys? Okay, and then those smaller goals, you want to track them. You want to track them, right? So you want to measure them, because you want to see what's working, what's not. Okay, and I use the example of when I'm training for bodybuilding competitions. I'm tracking daily and weekly. I'm checking in with my coach, right? So that we can make tiny little tweaks. This is one of the things that I see people miss often, because the focus is like out here instead of here, is that often people will give up or feel like they failed because like just one little thing is off. One little thing is off. And because you haven't been tracking and measuring, you don't realize that it's just a tiny little tweak and you're back on track. If you're just going off of memory and how you feel in the moment and all of that, you're missing something really critical. So that's why tracking whatever it is that you are pursuing and having those benchmarks and measuring what's working and what's not, that's why that's so important, because it can easily get you right back on track, right? Like I'll never forget earlier on in the year when I was training for the national competition, I said to my coach, Fred, I sent him an email and I was like, oh my God, I feel like we're so close and I don't see like how I'm going to get there in this amount of time. Like I thought I had too far to go. And he sent me pictures of the last time that we trained together and it was like 3 years prior, and how much change I had in that amount of time. It was like 4 weeks. And it reminded me, oh, that's right. That's how much actually changes in those last 4 weeks. And it got my mind back on track. And then I realized, okay, I'm definitely on track. But see, I forgot about that. So it was like the beauty of not only having my coach, but us having tracked everything. You know what I mean? It was just like oh yeah, duh, I forgot, because it's been 3 years that so much changes in that little bit of time. So it's tracking what you're doing that will give you feedback as to what's working and what's not. When I was a fitness trainer, I remember how many people would say to me, oh, I don't feel like I'm making progress. Boom. I would take out the measure tape. I would do their photo compared to last week. And then they would see it and they're like, oh my God, wow. Right? Like, oh, the scale was only moving like by 1 pound. I didn't realize I'd lost 5 inches, and wow, look at the picture. I didn't realize, that I've gotten smaller here. So often we think that we can manage everything in our minds, but we can't. You've got too much going on in your head. So track. Does this make sense? So that you can see what's working and you can change what is not. Okay, so now that you have done all that, you've declared that you're going to be personally responsible for the goal. You've told people about it. You understand your bigger why. You've got your goal broken down into chunks, and you're planning and tracking, right? Well, what comes next? What comes next? You've got to build in accountability. That is so key. It's an absolute must. That's why more and more people these days are working with coaches, are working with mentors. Like back in the day, like that was kind of like a secret thing that adults were doing. Only the biggest top high performers and most successful people were kind of like doing that secretly behind closed doors, right? And now we all know the secret. It's like all of your top performers, and this is easy to just look at when you see like athletics, right? No professional athlete is out there training him or herself. Like the best athlete still needs a coach to be on them, right? You're never going to be on your own. You're never going to be on your own as exceptional as you will be, and as accountable as you will be when you've got the accountability of a coach who can have an outside view, and who's already been where you've been, or at least has coached people to where you want to go. Does that make sense? So building in accountability is an absolute must. That can look like having a coach. It can look like having a community of colleagues. You probably have heard the word mastermind often. I'm in a couple of those. And the benefit of that is you have other peers to talk to bounce ideas off, to support you through tough times, to say, hey, this is what I'm going through now. I know you went through this last year. Can you give me some insight around this? I can't tell you, I have a friend, Sasha, where we are both coaches and we have similar businesses. And there are times she and I will just get on the phone like, hey, let's hop on the phone for 20 or 30 minutes. And we like talk some things through. I have another friend, Ariella, that I do that with too. And just other people. Actually, I have like 4 or 5 now that we, have formed an even smaller circle inside of our bigger mastermind. And I cannot tell you how many times that has saved me from making an assumption about something because I'm talking to somebody who's already been there, done that. Does that make sense to you guys? So building in accountability. Coach, community of colleagues, and I say this often, like build a team around you, not just like, I'm not just talking to business people, I mean, yes, I work predominantly with entrepreneurs and coaches, but apply this in your personal life and watch how it opens up for you. Right? So I'm a certified life coach. So, even though right now I'm mostly working with entrepreneurs and coaches, I work with everyday people, right? And I could think of one client in particular who started working with me and was completely overwhelmed as a stay-at-home mom with, 4 children. And one of the main things she was missing, and women do this often, she was missing like a support team at home. Like imagine the weight that it takes off when you've got someone helping with the house cleaning, you've got someone helping with the child care. Even if you like, part of your support team can be going to get a massage a couple of times a month, right? You can look at that as like your wellness team. You might even need, whether or not you choose a coach or like a traditional talk therapy or something, right? You're building in support so that you are not doing everything yourself. And what happens is it also frees you up to creatively be focused on the big goal, right? Because that's what this started with. You've got this goal. How do I stay on track to get there? Well, having support, accountability, and a team around you to take off some of the load is what releases a lot of tension and pressure and anxiety and anger, right? Like you're trying to do everything and then you realize you're spinning because you can only do so much as one person. So imagine like pieces of support just coming in, little angels like, and taking some things off of your plate. Imagine how much that frees up for you to focus on the goal that you have, right? So accountability is important. You must be connected to others who are reaching for the same goal, right? Or who are steps ahead of you. I spoke at the Zone event a couple of weeks ago, and one of the main things I spoke to two separate times. The evening before, we had a separate event, and in that talk, I was speaking to these new entrepreneurs and people, you know, who were coming to the event about the fact that like you've got to have courage, right? You've got to have courage to then take the next step. And for them, the next step was really stepping into community, leadership, coaching. And then on the Zone stage, that's really what I spoke into as well when Shanda asked, you know, what really works. And for me, and I see this work for everyone, you've got to be courageous enough. You've got to be courageous and humble enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with people who are smarter than you, who are further along than you, who make more money than you, who have achieved bigger goals than you. Like you've got to be in that kind of space in order for you to keep going and to set your bar higher, especially for those of you, those of us who tend to be the most driven person in our like home environment, friends, you know, close-knit community. Because the truth is, if you are the most driven, the smartest, the most ambitious person in your community, you know, in your tight-knit community, you're never going to actually access what you could access. You know, like me being in my community with other, like in my mastermind with other women who are like, bam, bam, just crushing it. Like that allows me to, number one, see what's possible, because I know for a fact that if somebody else can achieve something, so can I. It's just a matter or if I want it, and then if I declare it and set that intention, then I make it happen. So number one, just being in that environment and seeing what's possible makes a huge difference, right? Imagine you grow up in one environment, and this happened to me. You grow up in one environment and you only see this as potential. Then you go outside of your environment for whatever reason. Mine happened to be that I ended up getting a scholarship to a private, prestigious all-girls high school. And that opened up my mind to a whole other world coming from, you know, like public housing, right? Like then I was in this community where it was like, oh, this is what's possible, right? So you see what I'm saying here? What I'm trying to land with you is when you're in community of other people who are pursuing the same or similar and have already been there, you start, your eyes open up. Your eyes open up and you start to like keep setting your bar higher and higher. Then you find out what you're really made of. Then it becomes exciting to set these bigger goals and to be consistent, right? Consistency. So many people throw around the word like you've got to be consistent, you've got to be consistent. Well, this is how you become consistent. This is how you become consistent. It's by making the declaration, being responsible for it, being connected to the why, right? Planning, tracking, building community, and, you know, just being in that narrow, not wide, that narrow, deep focus, and along the journey, guess what? You're gonna have to have some fun along the way. Because yes, it does get mundane, right? Like there is the daily stuff in my business that is not that fun, you know? But it doesn't mean that I quit because it's not fun. I build in fun in my life in other ways, right? I build in fun along the way. I have my personal passions and my pursuits. You know, I set up trips. I do things with girlfriends. You know, I have my hobbies. I go mountain biking with my husband. I train in the gym. I now go to a Zumba class. Like, find things that are fun for you along the way. And what I mean by that, and the reason this is important, is because if all you're focused on is the goal, the goal, the goal, the goal, right? Like, if that's all you're focused on, yeah, that's where people get burned out, right? Like, you build in other areas into your life that allow you to enjoy, you know, your life while you're on the journey to this bigger goal. And this really applies especially to those of you who have big athletic goals or have big business goals, right? Because here's the truth. Really driven people can become, you know, workaholics and, like, I don't know how to say this, like fitnessaholics, right? Like, there's just a part of us that is wired like that, right? It's like we can just go, 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 and only focus on that. And I've done that in the past. That's kind of where you get the burnout, the overwhelm, and that's where many people will quit, right? Because you know, you're so attached to the result. So here, you're really kind of unattached to the result, but focused on what it takes daily to get there, and then magically your result happens. So I hope that supported you. I'm going to actually, tomorrow is hot seat. So I'm super excited to be bringing on someone for the hot seat. And I'm just going to look really quickly at those of you who are live. Catherine says, I need to micro it down. Awesome. I'm going to help you with that. A tracking system, right? I write notes and still get distracted. Don't create something that's going to distract you more. But it depends on what your goal is, Catherine. When you say, do you suggest a tracking system? Yeah, you know, like for instance, if you've got a financial goal in your company, right, you've got to track the numbers. If you've got a fitness goal, you track it by, you know, weighing yourself, taking measurements, you know, doing fitness tests, whatever that is, right? Isidro says, having support is great for me. I love being around people. Great. Great. I saw what's possible for me at the Zone this year. That's awesome, Catherine. And that's a result of you saying yes and taking the invitation, right? So thanks for joining me live. We had a small live crowd today, but that's okay. Tomorrow we're going to be hot seat Friday. And you're going to see me coach just right, you know, on the spot on this topic. Okay. So I'll see you tomorrow. Post any questions you have here as you're watching the replay, and have an incredible day. Bye.